Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. Guys, I thought I'd do a quick video on the Amir Khan Kell Brook situation. Ben Shalom has come out and said that nobody's talking about this, but Amir Khan has a rematch clause to fight Kell Brook again, and nobody seems to be talking about that. Nobody seems to be mentioning that. Obviously Brooks, there's a lot of talk been going on about Brook fighting Eubank, Brook fighting Conor Benn. There's also talk about Brook fighting Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. A lot of people have asked me, what do I think about the Khan situation? Do you think Amir Khan should give it one more go? Do you think he should rematch Kell Brook? Look, as you guys know, I'm a massive Khan fan, and I was almost greedy and selfish in the sense that I always wanted to see Khan fight more because I felt like I just loved his style. I loved his fast hands, his movement. I just found Amir Khan very aesthetically pleasing to watch. His style was great to watch, and he was just a great watch. Unfortunately for me, that love watching him anymore is not there anymore because he's not the fighter he was. So, to be honest, it's quite a horrible watch now. When I saw him fight against Crawford, like when I saw him fight against Canelo, I was enjoying it because he was having success in the fight and he looked really good. He looked really fast. He was on point. But for me, that's not there anymore. When I saw him against Crawford, it was a terrible watch. When I saw him against Brook, it wasn't a great watch. Even when I saw him against Samuel Vargas, although he was having the better of it, he didn't look the old Amir Khan to me. And against Brook, he looked totally broken and totally past his best. Where, every shot that Brook was landing, even a jab, was really having a massive effect. And at this point, for me personally, I don't think the Brook fight is a competitive fight. I think Brook wins that pretty easily at this point. And going off the first fight, it was quite a beatdown, to be honest. It was a one-sided beatdown. I don't think there'll be much interest in that as well because people clearly saw that Amir Khan was totally past his best. So I don't even think there'd be much interest. Forget about fighting Brook, about fighting anybody, because I think people clearly saw that Amir Khan is not the fighter he once was. Look, Barry Jones on Twitter went out and said, I hopefully that, because Ben Shalom said this and Barry Jones actually said, Amir Khan is not the fantastic fighter he once was. Hence why he was saying that maybe there should be an option there not to be able to promote that fight because it's not worth promoting in the sense that it's not a competitive fight. It's not. Going off the first fight, Amir Khan can't change anything in the rematch. I'm just being brutally honest. There's not anything he can change. For me, it's not a case where it was a training. For me, he trained very hard. Hence why he was able to absorb those shots from Brook and he never went down. Brook wasn't really able to put him down. The problem is that I feel like Amir Khan's body has given up on him. I feel like when he's trying to do things in the ring that he used to do in his prime, but his body's not doing that anymore. It's not responding the way it used to in the prime. And like I said to you, Amir Khan has a young man style. He has a very young man style. And that style that he has, the young man style that he had, for me, doesn't age very well. So if he was to fight, it doesn't matter who he fights. For me, Amir Khan at this point might not even beat Congo. Might not even beat Mickey. He won't beat British level fighters in my opinion. I just feel like his body he isn't the same fighter he once was. His body is broken down on him in that sense that I don't think he can compete at any kind of level anymore. And hence why I think he should retire. In my opinion, look, Amir Khan's had a great career. I wouldn't want to see him go out on a couple of losses and if he wants to come back and have an exhibition fight just to get a win, but he can't beat Brook as far as I'm concerned. He can't because he's not the same fighter. It was almost unrecognizable that was even Amir Khan fighting. Amir Khan, look, even against Billy Dib, he didn't look great. Let's be brutally honest. Against Billy Dib, he took him 5-6 rounds to get a guy that was very small out of there. And he didn't look too good. He was slow. His feet were slow. And that was years ago. Against Crawford, he looked really bad. Really bad. And that's not because Crawford and Brook was something. No. The reason why they had a lot of success is because Khan was totally shot to bits. That's why they were able to dominate. Nobody, if you go prior to the Canelo fight, Canelo and no one's been able to dominate Khan like that. No one's been able to dominate. Canelo wasn't able to dominate Khan. Danny Garcia wasn't able. They landed shots. Even Brady's Prescott landed a big shot. You know, Lamont Peterson was put down a couple of times. If you look at all of the fights that Amir Khan had, he had always had success in fights. Now, it's a case where he's not even having any success in fights. And Brook, fair enough, Crawford, people, you know, when I saw him fight Crawford's a pound for pound one. Even then, if Crawford had fought Khan in his prime, there's no way that he would just dominate the whole fight. That's just wouldn't happen as far as I'm concerned. I've watched all of Amir Khan's career. I've watched all of Crawford's career. Benavidez gave Crawford a lot of trouble. Jeff Horn at times troubled him more than Khan did. You know, Brook troubled him, right? Ricky Burns wasn't a cakewalk, right? So, for me, Benavidez is not as good a boxer as Khan, and he, for me, won rounds in that fight. And Benavidez isn't the boxer that Khan was. You know, for me, Amir Khan, after the Canelo fight, wasn't the same fighter. His legs have totally deceived him, and it's quite clear to see in the Brook fight that he had nothing to give. Nothing to give, and Brook was just too strong, because it's like a guy that doesn't have his legs anymore, and Brook's just so much bigger and stronger, right? Brook's really a middleweight, really, when you look at him. He's massive. Brook, I've been saying all along, Brook shouldn't even be at 147. I feel like him, Spence, Ennis, these guys are like weight bullies. They're weight bullies, effectively. They boil themselves down from high weights, and they look at the size difference on the night. It was massive. But the problem is Amir Khan can't cope with that size difference anymore. He hasn't got the legs to move in and out like he used to. His legs are totally packed in. So Amir Khan, in my opinion, cannot beat Kell Brook. He needs to, for me, as far as a Khan fan, like, I didn't enjoy watching that. That was like, even if Brook had won, but it was competitive and Khan, you know, was throwing off his flurries in and out movement, he can't do that anymore. So you're not going to win fights. He's not going to win. If your attributes that made you a good fighter have totally deceived you and totally diminished, you're not going to be able to compete at a high level, as far as I'm concerned. And for me, it's just going to be another beatdown for me. And I don't really want to see that, to be honest. I don't really want to see Amir Khan get hurt, or I want to see Amir Khan go out like that, because he's had a fantastic career. Like I said, he's been a great servant for British boxing. Like, for me, and Dave Allen said this as well, I feel like he's been one of the best British fighters of the last 20 years. He's been up there. You know, his resume is unparalleled. He's a great fighter. And I feel like if he comes back and tries to fight Kell Brook, I feel like he's trying to kid himself in a way, because I think he knows deep down, if you look at his post-fight interviews, he knows that he's not the fighter he once was. Look at Eddie Hearn after the fight, was saying that, you know, the speed weren't there. You know, everyone knows that, you know, he's not the fighter he once was. Barry Jones said Amir Khan's not the fantastic fighter he once was. People can clearly see, you know, and I'm just surprised that they didn't pick that up in sparring. They didn't pick that up in training. His legs weren't there. So for me, you know, I reckon Amir Khan should probably hang up the gloves now. He's had a great career. It's a very accomplished career, you know. It's a very accomplished career. Let Brook go on if he wants to. Personally, I think Brook should retire. I think Brook's going to get battered if he fights like Garcia or Thurman. They batter him. And Conor Benn and Eubank beat him as well, as far as I'm concerned. Brook hasn't got anything left. He's just that he fought somebody that was even worse off than him. You know, Teddy Atlas hit the nail on the head. He goes, Brook ain't in no mix. Right? It's just that he fought somebody more shot than him. Kell Brook, for me, should retire. But if he wants to continue, a lot of his fanboys on my channel came on and said, oh, well, you know, Brook, he's still got a lot left. I want to see Brook. Okay, I want to see it as well now, because you guys have ticked me off. So I want to see him fight Danny Garcia. I want to see him fight Keith Thurman. I want to see him fight Conor Benn. Right? Because a lot of you guys seem to think that he's not past his best, and he's got a lease of life, and he looked great against Amir Khan. Let's see if it was the fact that Brook was just so great, or let's see if it was the fact that Amir Khan was so past his best. Let's see if he can do that against Conor Benn. Let's see if he can do that against Chris Eubank. Let's see if he can do that against Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia. Because I don't think he can, if I'm brutally honest with you. Danny Garcia is still not a shot fighter. Danny Garcia's got a very good chin. He's a very strong guy and he punches very hard, very hard. His legs aren't all over the place like Amir Khan, in the sense where he's going to get hit with a jab and he's going to be all over the place. Danny Garcia's got one of the best chins in boxing. You know, and like I said, he punches very hard as well. So for me, that would be a no-go for Kell Brook at this point. Like, do I think Kell Brook would have beaten Danny Garcia in his prime? Yeah. I would favor Kell Brook to win. I think it would be a tough fight, don't get me wrong, but I would slightly lean towards Kell Brook in that one. But right now, no. Kell Brook loses against Danny Garcia. He loses against Keith Thurman, and I believe Conor Benn and them guys beat him. That's why I think Kell Brook should retire. And Johnny Nelson and those guys know, even like Dave Coldwell, they want Brook to retire because they know that, you know, these were two past its best fighters. One was just more past it than the other. They know that he can't compete with anybody worthwhile in around the top 10. Hence why they want Brook to retire. You know, they're not stupid. And this is, like, a lot of you have been asking me, do a video on Brook. I told you my opinions about Brook after the fight. I did a video after saying that I think Kell Brook should retire. I think Kell Brook and Amir Khan should retire. That should be their last fight. Brook's going to go on. Brook's going to go on because he probably thinks that, you know, I'm back. He was saying after the fight, my mojo's back. Again, you know, I wish him all the best. But if he fights any of those 4 names that are being mentioned, he doesn't beat either. Because those guys aren't shot to pieces. All of those guys are, like, Garcia's past his best. Thurman's past his best. To be honest with you, if I'm Kell Brook, I would fight one of them. I wouldn't fight Conor Benn. Because Conor Benn's a young, hungry lion at this point. And he's looking to do some serious damage. So if I'm Kell Brook, I'm not fighting Conor Benn. I'm not going anywhere near Conor Benn. Because Conor Benn he's hungry right now. He's dangerous right now. So Kell Brook should not be going anywhere near Conor Benn. Conor Benn's too hungry for me. You know, I actually think that those fights are probably, like Conor Benn fight is probably going to happen. Because Conor Benn's probably the biggest money fight for Brook. It's a big fight. But in terms of, like, yeah, I don't think he beats I don't think he beats any of those names, if I'm honest with you. But again, like, I'm pretty sure that Kell Brook's going to want to fight on because he looked really good against Amir Khan. And he's going to think, you know what, I got a couple more fights left in me. But Brook's going to regret it if he goes in with someone like Conor Benn and gets beat up or gets knocked out. He's going to regret that. I could have gone out on a high. I could have left the sport, you know. And I'm pretty sure, Brook's not made the money that Khan has, and he's never going to make that kind of money. But the point is that Brooks probably feels that he was deprived of opportunities in his prime. So he may feel that, I want to make that up now after this great win that he had against Khan, that I want to make that up. You know, because I didn't get the opportunities, now I want to get those opportunities. The problem is for him, it's come at too late a stage of his career. He's not the fighter he was. He's past his best. And these guys are still dangerous for him. Very, like, I don't feel he beats any of those names that I've mentioned. But, you know, it'd be a good payday for him. But if I was him, I'd probably edge towards a Thurman or Garcia fight. He probably gets more credibility beating one of those guys. Also, those guys are kind of past their best. Whereas like Conor Benn and Chris Eubank they've got something to prove. They've got a point to prove. They're hungry. Do you see what I mean? So I would stay away from them. And Eubank's too big anyway. And Conor Benn's just hungry. You know, so that's my take. Personally, I think as Johnny Nelson, I agree with Johnny Nelson and Dave Coldwell that both Amir Khan should definitely retire because he hasn't got what he had once upon a time. He's diminished massively. Kell Brook, his style hasn't aged as bad, but Kell Brook's got dodgy eye sockets. And, you know, he doesn't want that injury to reoccur. You know, so, and if he fights somebody that is dangerous, like a Conor Benn, like Eubank, Garcia, Thurman, there's a very good possibility that he could have trouble with that. You know, Kell Brook might even want a rematch with Amir Khan because he might look at it as another payday and another easy fight. That's how Kell Brook might view it. Kell Brook might want Amir Khan to activate the rematch clause because he might want that fight. Rather than going on and fighting someone else, Kell Brook might want to fight Amir Khan again because it'll be another decent... Thing is, I don't think there'll be much interest in that fight. I don't think there'll be no demand. Like, who's going to want to see Amir Khan, Kell Brook again? There's no demand. There's no demand in that fight for me. Like... it was one-sided. It wasn't like it was a close fight where Khan dropped Brook and it was a back and forth. It was a very one-sided affair. So who's gonna want to see that? I don't think anyone's gonna be interested. That's just my personal opinion. Who's gonna be interested in watching that? But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.